My name is Cecile, and I have been given through traditional ceremony my spiritual given name, and it's Dancing on the Water Loon Woman. And that name was given to me through the Anishinaabe, through the Ojibwe people, through a beautiful ceremony. And I even carry a loon with me because I do a lot of stuff with kids, and I have a lot of different animals, and I like to have it fun, make it fun for the kids. So I always say to them, do you know what this is and how it sounds? And there's the loon, and the loon represents love. So anyways, I use that mostly for the kids, but it was in my bag. So okay, so I'm happy to be asked to do these teachings, and Allison and her friend have come here and to ask me to do that.
Thank you, Cecile. I wanted to ask you to help us with these important teachings. You're very knowledgeable, and our region is very lucky to have a teacher like you, and we appreciate your teachings.
Wow, thank you very much. I'll accept that. Thank you. Okay. Where shall I start? Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
There's a lot of teachings with our tobacco, and very important. And so I'm going to start with the teachings that I have been given in regard to the belief system that we've been given. A lot of people today give tobacco and they don't know what it means because they've never been told, and it's not through any fault of their own. You just accept, and you come and you're respectful and you give tobacco because that's the process. That's the way, and that's a start. However, when you go through some ceremonies like the Medewan Lodge, it's all about teachings, everything. And then you go, oh, now I get it. So I was fortunate in my life. I had a lot of really good teachers, and I would travel around, my husband and I, to Saskatchewan, to the States, to all over the place. And we recognized a lot of the diversity in different cultures. And so it's so beautiful to see all of them. And we always just came as ourselves, with really nothing except offering our tobacco and maybe gifting or whatever. So what I learned about the belief system with the tobacco is that again, coming from the beginning of times, we were told that there was a form of communication. So we could speak with the animals, we could speak with the birds, we could speak with the medicines, with the plants, with the water, with the rocks. Sometimes people will look at a grandfather rock, and to them, in the English language, you have animate, inanimate, and they say that it has no life. And I don't know how we determine what's life or what isn't life, but in our way, these mushrooms can have life. So that's how it was a long time ago. And if you can imagine, we didn't have the technology like we do today. So people weren't on their iPads, their cell phones, their TVs. We didn't have things that were so easy with just pushing a button. We had the land. And that's one of the beautiful things about being in the Tipi, because we have the Mother Earth right here, the grass. There wasn't all this interference like there is today. People lived in harmony with the land, with the animals. There was a connection. There is a connection today. We're connected with everything. We just don't use it as much. It's all interconnected. But people recognized it back then, and everything, that had life, had food for us that they used from the Mother Earth. and they believed in a higher power, like creator, Gitchimanato, Mamawi, no Chawi Mao, whatever language you spoke, that was your higher power. And there was respect. There was respect for the land. So there wasn't all this interference and this form of communication. And I'm not saying it's, you speak in your language and you're talking to a little plant, but we recognize that the little tobacco plant, that people were told, whether it was through a vision, through a dream, whatever, that they could pick this tobacco and we could use it as a form of communication to speak to creator. So we pick the tobacco, and well, of course it didn't look like that then. It was in the form of like a leaf, the natural tobacco. And but when you take it and you use it and you say your name, you do it in the proper way, it becomes sacred. So the way that we were told that it would work was we take our tobacco and we offer it up. We say our name and we put our prayers, our requests into the tobacco, the spirit of the tobacco. And it would go to the grandfather, grandmother eagles. Spirit, that's the spirit of the grandfather, grandmother eagles, to the grandfather, grandmother thunderbirds, to creator, and it would come back again to the thunderbirds, the eagles, and those enrichments would go out, and they are enrichments, would go to the people with that spirit of that tobacco. So our prayer would be in it, and the helpers were the eagles and the thunderbirds. And that's why you see so much today. Like you go places and you see in our artwork and a lot of our clothing and a lot of things that we do, people talk about the eagles. You see sculptures, the thunderbirds, because they are the helpers to the creator. So that's why we look at them with respect and honor. So that's what this tobacco can do. So when we take our tobacco, so Allison offered me this tobacco, and what's in this tobacco when you passed it to me was your intent, good spirit and intent that comes into this tobacco. And I trust that coming from you, and I accept it. I'm going to do these teachings, and I know that they're going to go in a good way for people. And I'm not saying that I am anybody. I try and come humbly and with my teachings, because I really feel that at my age that it's important to leave the teachings, especially for our young people today. It's time. Things are coming back. And, I really believe our young people especially are going to be the ones to pick it up and lead the way into the future. And it's important because they are our teaching, healing ways. So the tobacco, so you've given me this tobacco. Some elders, you might, you give tobacco because you ask them to do a prayer. You ask them to come to a conference. You ask them to come do a naming ceremony, to do protection for your house, there's ceremonies for everything. Can you make me a drum? I would really like a rattle. I'd like to have this, be able to do the woman's ceremony. Like for me, I carry the woman's bundle. That was given to me. So all these things you offer tobacco, and it goes through the spirit and intent of the tobacco. So if you have an elder and you come to them and you say, for instance, my mom. So she went to residential school. My husband went to residential school. So today there's a lot of talk about Every Child Matters residential school stuff. So if you have an elder and you come to them and you say you have tobacco, and you say, I'm coming to ask you if you could come tell us your stories about what happened at residential school, and make it, it's like setting up the environment and making it a safe place for them. You know, our trust is in this tobacco. And they go, okay, you're asking them something that is very, could be very emotional. You could be asking somebody to talk about their life somewhere, and maybe there was sexual abuse involved. So that's not an easy thing. So you're giving them the tobacco. And I'm giving this to you in a respectful way. This is what I'm asking you to do. Not only that, when you give tobacco and you come to me and you ask for teachings, it validates what I'm doing. I mean, I could sit here with a camera and say, do this on my own, but people will go, oh, okay, somebody, Allison, asked her to do this. So now it's like it validates what I'm doing. I'm doing it because you asked me to do it. So that's another reason. So the tobacco is looked at as sacred. I've seen some people that don't understand, and they take, you know, it comes in different forms. You can get loose tobacco, you can in cigarettes, and that's okay. But sometimes, you know, like we have places here, sustainability program or different programs, and they bring a whole bunch of tobacco for all the elders in the meeting. Elderly, I'd say elderly because it's an age thing partly here. To me, an elder is defined differently than what some people define it. And they are elders too, because they've lived a long time, you know, but some people carry different ceremonies or different things like that, traditional ways. So some people, you know, they'll go around in the circle and they'll say, you know, I have tobacco for you. And they go, oh, I want the cigarettes. They give them the loose tobacco. And they go, no, give me the cigarettes, because they smoke, but they don't understand. And I go, you know, like, this is sacred, but I understand. I mean, our communities have been through so much, and we've lost a lot, and it's not our doing. And we've been through a process of colonization, of assimilation. I hate using that word. Not all people have been colonized or assimilated or bought into it. They learned, they found out. However, there's a lot of people that still don't understand. And, you know, those teachings are there. They are coming back. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take time. So our tobacco, so giving me this means a lot. Because now we're learning, we have a connection. I have trust that you give me this in a good way, and that you're learning. I'm learning too from you, because we have that in between us, that connection. So that's a belief system. So the grandfathers and grandmothers, and then when we take our tobacco and we offer it up to Gitchmanatu, Mushmas, Nukamas. Some people say, you know, creator in their language, and maybe Mother Earth, or just creator. Again, like everybody does things different. And I do creator, grandfathers and grandmothers, and our Mother Earth. And then my name. I you know, if you've been given a spiritual name, use that name. And because the grandfathers and grandmothers learn to know who you are through that. If you don't, you say, my name's Cecile, and I come to you, and I'm coming to you, you know, in a humble way with requests. You know, maybe you're going through a lot of hurt, a lot of confusion, stuff has happened to your family, or you're praying, or you're giving thanks, or things like that in your prayer. Sometimes people, you know, like I have my rattles, we have medicines, you know, I have picked sweetgrass. A lot of our medicines, we take our tobacco, our sage, we take our tobacco. It's because of the tobacco that I have this. And even if I wanted a stick for a drum, I would take my tobacco and I would go out and I would find maybe a willow tree or whatever, for even for this teepee. All these pegs, we put tobacco out. All the you know, if there's foundation pegs, we put tobacco out. Everything we use tobacco for, because we give thanks and we acknowledge to the spirit world, to this tree, that I'm going to take it and I'm going to use it in a good way. Today's world, there's a lot of greed. People take things, you know, and then, you know, they take it and they're not being careful, you know, maybe peeling it or whatever, or they didn't get the notches off, or maybe they're carrying some anger inside and they don't realize it, and then they rip the canvas or whatever. So, you know, you take your tobacco and you accept things. This is, you know, how I'm going to do it. This is, you know, whatever happens from here is in God's hands, is in grandfather, grandmother's hands. So it's very spiritual. So our tobacco, I've taken a lot of tobacco and I've gone down to the river. As a matter of fact, I had a vision about this for the missing and murdered women. Yeah, that's what it was, our last missing and murdered women we had here. And I had a vision a long time ago, and I told somebody about it. And I said, someday I can see Fort Mckay, women and young girls standing on the cliff, you know, on the Athabasca River, because I come from a family of real riverboat people. They're in books, Captain Shot and that. So I'm really connected to water, and because water is life. It's a resource that we can't live with. To me, it's a living entity. It has life. It has life for the people. So I can see us taking our tobacco and offering it up, and maybe someday the women will feel brave enough to take their drums, because we should be. Yeah, we have half that circle belongs to the women, that sacred circle of life. I do. I have drums and I have the songs, and I sing in a lot of different languages because I've been to a lot of different ceremonies and fasts. And so, or even their rattles and stand, and we learn the songs and sing to the water. Look at all the damage that's been done to our rivers, to our water, and we're in the midst of it. And I'm going, what do? I live here. Am I a part of this harm that's being done? You know, so there's confusion that goes inside of my own self that I need to deal with and reconcile. But I take it, and maybe we take even a cup of water every morning in our tobacco, and we pray for the water. Or we go to the river, and the women are so connected to the water. And that's why we have the full moon. There's lots of teachings with it. And there's songs with it. And because I'm the loony lady, the loon is connected to water. So I take my tobacco, and if we all stood there and we put tobacco in the river and we let it go with our prayer and our connection to the land, to the water, to the life that is in the water, and we pray that we are doing the best that we can in living today in today's world, or however people feel. Water is cleansing. It has cleansing. So it's got so much You know, try fasting for 4 days. What you really want is not coffee, not tea, not juice, not pop or anything like that. You want water. Give me ice cold water, you know, and it's just, yeah, it's a healing. So, you know, you put your tobacco, you have this for prayer, for healing, for connection. If everybody thought this way and they took their tobacco, believe me, it would be a better world. I used to work for the Red Cross in Calgary. I did the Respect Ed programs. And it was all about the prevention of violence and abuse. And I loved it there. It was a gift to work there. And one day I was going to work, and every morning, once a week, we would have a staff meeting, and you'd tell about one thing that happened to you. So I told them one day, I said, every day for the past while, I come to work and I see a pond. And this is coming from Cochrane to Calgary. There's a pond and I see the loons. And that pond is sparkling early morning. It's just got a sparkle. It looks so beautiful and calm. And I see the loons on there. So I would see them every morning. I'd go to work, and I'm going to work, and I'd look for them, and I'd see them out there, and how beautiful it was, and how fortunate. And isn't it amazing about nature, you know, what there is out there. And so anyways, one day I go by, and I saw there was a tube going across. Somehow they made it from one side of the highway onto the other side, and they were draining the pond. And this was going to be a great big ford, and it was just outside on top of the hill out of Cochrane. And they were developing over there, and there was going to be a great big Ford auto place. They were going to be selling vehicles there, and they were draining the pond. And I thought, do they ask the ducks, the birds, the water, the environment? Has there been any concern about it? I mean, right away for us, when you take from the land and you disrupt something, at least go and make correction. And that's another thing that tobacco does, I'm going to talk about. But at least take your tobacco and offer it up and have people see and understand. If we all learn this together, and we went together and we stood there at that pond, and I don't know, like, things happen. It's like planting a little seed. Maybe they would consider this is not a good place to, you know, get our water from or drain this from. Maybe we need to think about alternative ways with what we're doing with the land. I don't know, but I really feel there is. So now I'm telling my Red Cross staff, they're draining the pond, the loons and the ducks, and everything's affected there. So, but, you know, it's our thinking. We have different worldviews, you know, than what we used to have a long time ago. And a lot of people don't understand that today. But we can, if we wanted to. We can find out. We can learn. There's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of elderly knowledge keepers, I think the word is today, that have those teachings, that understand that. So I just wanted to tell that story. The other thing that the most important thing, I think one of the most important things I ever learned in my life was tobacco and correction. When I started going to ceremonies in Saskatchewan, we'd go to these, it was called Teaching Lodge, and men and women, and we'd all camp and arrive, and we were going to be there for 4 days in this great big long lodge. And so they had like 7 sacred fires, but the one fire you'd come to, and there was tobacco, big bowls of tobacco, And if you came in, you took your tobacco, took your hat off, offered tobacco up, creator, grandfathers, grandmothers, Mother Earth, and you offered it to the fire. So we were learning to build sweat lodges. We were cooking for the feast every day. Like, we were kept so busy every day. And then we'd sit all night in this ceremony. We were making like our cloth, well, some people call it flags, for this lodge. And they would all be up. So you had to do this. There's a lot of preparation. So when you make a mistake, we were told, because we're human beings, we all make mistakes in life, even the Queen of England. What you do is you take your tobacco and you go in. You can go to the fire, you can go to a river, but there we were told it was set up for this. All the pipes were laying there, all the ceremonial stuff were in there, on buffalo robes and stuff. But you would go to that fire and you'd offer this tobacco up, say your name, and this is what you did. You wanted correction because I did this today or whatever, and you'd put it down in the fire. So one day I went over to our lead person that was running ceremony, and I said to him, what do I do with these buns? There's all these buns left over from the ceremony. And if they don't get eaten up right away, what you have to do is bury them, bury all your food. And he told us that. But I thought, I don't want to waste. Am I going to waste all this, or can we keep it for, we're having another ceremony and we're fixing food up? He goes, I told you women, you take the food, you bury it. I told the men, go out there, dig a hole for the women. They'll come to you. You bury it. You bury the food. So I'm going, okay. So I go out there and I take my tobacco, offer it up, for this teaching and giving thanks for it. And I'm learning, and I'm a fairly stubborn person, and I just sometimes have to learn, to zip it. And so I learned, and it was a lot of work. And I remember there were some people that would sit back and they weren't doing a whole lot, and the rest of us were cutting willows. We were getting mushums, rocks, all of this, getting wood, looking after the house stuff. There was so much. But the fourth day, when we started sharing and going around in the circle, and people would take their tobacco, they'd go up to the fire, offer it up, put it in the fire, and they would speak. Some of us, because we were so exhausted and tired, would go in there, we'd offer our tobacco and break down in tears, and you're crying. This is what happened to me. And one of the things I found is one of my friends, Dennis, he was always there with me. And I'm going, so what are you in trouble for now this time? What did you do? Because we were always there, but we always knew that the two of us were always trying our best and trying, and working hard. But some people, they would come from Calgary, just show up for ceremony. And they got a lot out of it. But I mean, there was so much healing that was going on. And that's ceremony, whether you go to Sundance or whatever. And you take your tobacco. So you use it for correction. A lot of times, even our young kids, we carry around so much garbage, so much shame, so much guilt, and it's not good for us. We have a way to let it go. So I have so many stories that I can tell, but I'm not going to, about people that have had hard times, and where they could have just taken their tobacco and let it go. I mean, look at kids. Hockey's just over now. A lot of young kids, you hear their parents screaming and yelling, how come you didn't get that goal? You were right there, This is about fun. This is about team, working together as a team. It's sports. But sometimes there's a lot of pressure put on kids. There's peer pressures at the school, with schools, with adults, with us. There's so much constantly that we're bombarded with. We can offer our tobacco and let it go and leave it there. I had, somebody said, well, what do you mean? I'm going, okay, so if I saw you in Walmart tomorrow, and every time you saw me, I come up to you, every time you see me, I'm carrying around this big bag of potatoes, and they're stinky and they're rotten, and it's garbage in this bag. So you see me and I'm going, hey, how are you doing? And they're looking at me good, and they're kind of standing back because I smell, it's really smelly. But I'm carrying this bag no matter what. This is coming with me, all my garbage. And that garbage can be shame, it can be hurt, it can be jealousy, it can be separation, it can be loss, it can be so many things that are hurting my spirit as a person, my self-esteem. Same with kids and for any of us. And there's no form of release. So I've decided I'm going to carry this garbage with me, which is not good for me. So this person says, Cecile, when are you going to let that go? I'm going, what do you mean? Well, you should let that go, all that garbage go. Well, how am I supposed to do that? I've carried it for so long. I've become so conditioned to having it with me and a part of me, but you can let it go. There's ceremonies. There's ways of release to let it go. So I'm going to do that because it's getting heavy and I'm getting tired and it's time, way past time. So I have my tobacco and I can put it in the river, in the water, and I can release it through my tobacco, our sacred tobacco that's been around since the beginning of time. See, our people, they could travel. We had, we only use like 1/10 of our brain. But I was just thinking of that guy with the star thing. He's really brainy. Anyways, so we could travel distances. We had visions, we had dreams, we had prophecies. That's how in tune we were through our ceremonies, through our pipes. So with our tobacco. So, again, cigarettes are also fine. Sometimes people can't, it's expensive sometimes for pouches, and it's hard for some people, they can't afford it. But for me, like even giving 2 cigarettes, and I just look at it as 2 because male and female, I don't know why I do that, but balance, I guess, if I do and I don't have a pouch and I'm at a ceremony. And, sometimes I go, I wish I could give more for tobacco, but this is a start. When I see them next, I'll do this or whatever. The tobacco comes in different forms. So I really like the loose tobacco. Sometimes what you can do, even with this, is take it and just split it down here with your nail. I don't have any nails because I cut them all the time. And just take it apart. And this is that young boy that you met, my son. When he was about 4, he used to come to Medewan Lodge, and then he used to come Sundance with us all the time too. And one day I was driving along the road, and he said, Mom, can I have a cigarette? And he's like 5, 6 years old, and I'm going, oh, okay. That's when I used to smoke. And we were out around Bragg Creek, coming around the corner, and he said, could you pull over and stop the car? So I said, sure. So I pulled over, and he took his cap off, and he said, there's an eagle out here, and I want to pray to the spirit of that eagle for being here right now. He said, he wanted to take that opportunity, the chance at that time. Here's my little son, and I'm standing from a distance watching him. And it just touches my heart. Here's my little son, and my grandkids are the same. They come in here and they love ceremony. And you make it fun, and you teach them, and I sing some of the songs, a wolf song, and I go, let's, and start howling a little bit and making it fun for them and telling them stories. And I'm trying to teach my granddaughter about the way of the pipe. And I've told her, this pipe is going to belong to you someday. This is going to you. Little Hunter already has a pipe that's a brand new one from his mushroom. He sat out here, and my late husband was cutting the stem part down because it was too long to try and light it, and it's like way down like this, and trying to light it, it's hard. So he was cutting the stem down, and Hunter was standing there with him, and he said, Hunter, one day this pipe will belong to you. So I know that it's going to be his one day. And his name through ceremony is Sacred Pipe Man. So anyways, so we use our tobacco. I like the loose tobacco for our pipes. And when we take it, and we take our tobacco and we offer it up, Creator first, and we put it into that pipe, and then you take your tobacco again and smudge it from whatever way you do it. I do east doorway, and you offer it, smudge it, do your prayer, put it in your pipe. It's like the seed of all life. Our ceremonies are all about life and prayer, all about that. And a lot of times in our humanness, we make mistakes in life, and we offer our tobacco for it. So I sometimes, I'll go to a tree and offer tobacco. Sometimes we'll offer, like my son, through his name, Dancing on the Water, or he's Dancing Thunderbird Man. In the spring, the very first thing he's to do is to take his tobacco when he hears the first thunder, sees the first lightning. He's to take tobacco and offer it up to the tree and leave it there. And then he's supposed to put some berries there and some fish there for feeding the spirits. So, we learn these things, and especially like all my kids have been raised this way, especially because of my husband. And we all started following this way. We all went to Catholic church, and we learned. And now, I'm not saying it was bad, but this is the way my ancestors left for me, I believe, these beautiful healing teaching ways. And this is what I pass down to my grandkids. So it starts with the tobacco, and I don't know how much time we have, if that. But so when I dance, a lot of people even put tobacco. Sometimes I put it in my pouch and I carry it when I'm dancing, and I put tobacco in my car so that I have it when I'm traveling. Like sometimes I go, oh, I want to get some sage. All of a sudden I'll see a field full of sage or medicines, and we'll pull over, and I have tobacco. Because then you can thank the plant. You don't just take things, neither. You ask permission, to take the plant with your tobacco, because you're going to use it for ceremony. You want to use it for, for somebody, for healing, or for your family, or for different things. So it's the seed. And so when you take your tobacco and you offer it up, see, this tobacco down here is the physical. The physical part of it stays with the physical. So when we do our prayer and we offer our tobacco up in our prayer, it's spiritual. It goes up to the spiritual. So then you can leave your tobacco by a tree, by the water. That a lot of people, like, they tie bundles for the sacred tree of life, or sometimes it'll be in your home. I went to my son's home not long ago. He just moved into Invermere with his wife, and he wanted his home smudged and blessed and all this. So I told him, you know, you find a stick, and we used to do, he knows, because we used to do this at our house, and put it in the north direction, because that's where we see that as the medicine direction. And well, they're all medicine, it's all healing, but we make out of, you get a meter of cloth, 4 colors, and then you tie your tobacco in there. You put your tobacco in there, and then you take part of that cloth and tie it in bundles, and you hang it. Might be for 4 days. Your tobacco, and it's working because the grandfather, grandmother spirits heard your prayers, and it's working in there. So, so that's another way our tobacco works. So we use it, you know, in this form. Sometimes people will take it. I never ever seen my husband smoke, but sometimes we'd be driving along and he'd stop, and I go, okay, George, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to stop and offer some tobacco. We're just crossed the border, and I want to offer it to the ancestors for allowing us to be on their ancestral lands, because we're not from here, and that we be looked after. So I go out with him, and he takes his hat off, and he's got his tobacco, and he's doing a prayer, you know, from the east, you know, where the sun is. And then he'll go all 4 directions, and he asks permission for us to be there, and that we walk in a good way while we're there. We don't, you know, disrupt, especially the spirits and that. So we do that. And our kids see us. We don't even have to teach them all the time, because they see the way you live, you role model it. You know, sometimes you can't tell people things, you just live it. If everybody lived a good life, you know what a world it would be if you just walked it. So I in my ceremony, when we have ceremony in circle, when people are speaking, they can either take tobacco. I always have a big bowl or a dish of tobacco, and they can take it, and they can offer it up in their prayer, put it down. But like the women's ceremony, I take the tobacco here and I offer it up for each woman, and I tell them what I'm doing, and I put it in, and then they start their prayer. You can give prayer, you know, tobacco to someone. Can you sing a song for our ceremony? You know, can you do the honor song? Can you do a teaching at this function on this for us? Give, you know, tobacco. So it's really beautiful. I love it. There's so much with it.